Last week, we did the entire offense. We went over each position, gave it a grade. This week, we're just doing the front seven because the offense, we kind of knew where things were going to lay out. Like, we kind of knew, okay, Lagway starting. We know Ball is very likely starting, and as well as Jacoby Jackson. The offensive line, we had 4 of the 5 players set. Tight end, we pretty confident in 3 guys there. But defense, a lot more question marks starting wise and depth wise. Some like second stringers. So we kind of want to go individually more intact on this front seven preview. And this is a good question from Rob. Is Will Harris going to NFL confirmed? Not confirmed.
It's not. Yeah.
No.
In fact, I don't even know. There hasn't even really been much beyond just like Twitter rumors from what I've seen. Like, I mean, I've seen a lot of them, but I haven't really seen anything too substantive that he's actually going to the NFL.
Yeah. All right, but let's start this front seven preview. We'll start at the center, the nose tackle position. This is probably the biggest question mark going into the year for the Gators. So those on the roster, any of them could start, but I'll lay them out. And what I think the order will be, pending injuries, Jamari Lyons, Mekhi Barrow, DeAndre Robinson, and Stephon Shivers. Plus, I also added in a possible transfer because there still is the fall or spring window that could end up bringing a guy in. We've seen Billy do it a couple times, so I wouldn't rule that out. Yeah, especially because you saw us go after a couple nose tackles in the transfer cycle this past cycle. Yeah, I'll let you start. What do you think of the nose tackle position?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, like entirely unproven, pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll be honest. Probably the biggest area I'm disappointed that Florida didn't address in the transfer portal. They tried on a couple guys, didn't work out for them. So they're kind of rolling with what they got. Like you said, maybe that changes in the spring. Wouldn't be surprised if they add a body here, but I'm not sure anyone you would add in the spring is someone who's going to be like certainly a plug-in and play starter. I think probably safe to assume one of the guys on the roster going into spring ball will be your main nose tackle next year. I mean, looks like we lost Tyler. Well, I'll carry this for a second until we get him back. But yeah, I mean, it's just hard to say because we haven't seen like Mekhi Barrow and DeAndre Robinson are guys who really only played like, a handful of snaps as kind of role players, reserved, rotational guys especially down the stretch last season. And we don't really know. Jamari Lyons hurt for most of the year. So really kind of a question there. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of like, especially because like how important the play of Cam Jackson was last year at that position. Like as the defense got better down the stretch, I think he was a big part of it. It's concerning for sure. And I'm not saying one of those guys can't become a good starter. But I don't think there's anyone there right now that you would look to and be like, oh yeah, for sure. Like this is a guy that we feel good about. Just going to kind of have to hope that there's development there. I think we saw decent development last year from Gerald Chapman, his group with those guys, but it's a bit of a concern. I think the corners and safeties are going to be a lot better this year. Yeah, we're going to talk about that next week. We're going to get into the secondary on next week's show, but I think that certainly could be an interesting group. Not sure where Tyler is, but yeah, I mean, pretty limited options. I mean, like DeAndre Robinson played in a handful of games last year. I'm not exactly sure how many. Here we go.
Hey,
you're back.
There we go.
Yeah. No, I was just saying, and brought up Rob's comment here too, like pretty unproven group there. Especially I mean, Burrow and DeAndre Robinson, guys that kind of played a little bit last year as rotational guys. Didn't see a ton of them, and the Lions was injured. So we just don't know a lot.
I think we did see, a ton, I guess. We didn't see a ton. I thought we saw a good bit of Burrow and DeAndre, especially Burrow. I mean, from week 1, we saw him getting good playing time. I mean, I thought he looked pretty good. Like, not a guy that I'm comfortable with starting going into the year, but it could be a guy that's like, oh, okay, he was a good starter. DeAndre was pretty highly rated recruit, obviously. Like, saw a little bit of him. He was decent. I could also see him playing defensive tackle. He doesn't have the size that Burrow or any of the other guys in the room had. I think the guy I'm looking at here is Jamari Lyons. I liked a lot what I saw from Jamari Lyons in his freshman season. I think it was his freshman season in 2023. So I think if he's healthy, that's like the biggest question we have. It's been, is he going to be ready? Is he going to be healthy? Like, I think if he's healthy, I think it could be good. I mean, I think he can be really good. Like, obviously not the level like Cam Jackson was, but I think he'll be better than what we saw from Des Watson, who Des Watson was solid. I mean, when you have two guys around you at the defensive tackle and Caleb Banks and defensive end and Tyreek Sapp, it can mask a little bit or make you look better. I mean, that's kind of how you look at QB position a bunch, to make the receivers and tight ends and offensive lines look better. And I mean, talked about hopefully we can get a transfer in the spring cycle. What'd you give this grade for the position?
I think, I mean, frankly, I think you'd be hard pressed to give it anything better than like a C, because there is talent and potential there, but really just not. I mean, like you said, like Lyons, Burrow, and Robinson are all guys who have had like moderate production playing as rotational guys so far in their careers, but no one who's really played like starter level snaps. So yeah, I mean, I think I'm probably at like a C, because I don't think I can like fairly give it anything higher than that.
I'm trying to remember if I gave tight ends a C or a C plus. I think I gave tight ends a C plus, right?
I might have gone C minus for tight. I might have gone C minus.
Honestly,
for tight ends,
I'm lower on the nose tackle room than I am the tight end room. I'm gonna go C minus for nose tackle.
Okay.
But I do think he has the potential of like a B, which we've seen Napier do. Like the offensive line, probably like the entire line going into the season, probably would have given like a C going into the year, and probably end up being like a B plus. So it's like it can turn out to be good.
I mean, like this could be a solid. Like if one of these guys is good, then it's probably fine. Yeah. But it's just I don't feel super confident about it as we sit here today.
Did you talk about Brian Taylor at
I did not mention. No? Okay. I did not mention Brian Taylor.
So I think Rob is talking about Brian Taylor as a JUCO transfer.
I assume that's what he's talking about.
Actually, I think is an interesting thing. I don't think he's a nose tackle. I know he's not really a nose tackle.
Yeah,
he's a defensive tackle. We'll get here into the DT room now. Caleb Banks, potential first round draft pick, going into the year. Like this is almost as good as it gets in college football. So I'm happy there. And I think you have to look at the depth of that position a bit and maybe have some worries. We just talked about Brian Taylor Jr. He's a guy I've heard a lot of people actually really hype up. A guy with a lot of potential, good size. We'll see. Like, I mean, again, he wasn't a high-rated recruit, was a JUCO. It's just a guy that I've heard a lot about from people who do watch and know things from the staff. So we'll see there. Some other things to look at, maybe DeAndre Robinson, because he's kind of tween. Like, he's not full size for a nose tackle, but he's also a bit bigger for a defensive tackle. So, I mean, if Taylor isn't that good, might see more of him. Another JUCO, Tavares Brown. Someone just huge. Like a big guy. I think he's like 6'8" or something like that. So, another development piece that we know Billy loves to bring in. Maybe someone who plays. And then you have two true freshmen, Jeremiah McLeod and Joseph Mbachu. Joseph, I don't know if we see much of this year. A guy who's newer to football, more developmental piece, high upside. Jeremiah McLeod is one that we might see a good bit of this year, depending on how we talk about like Robinson and Taylor are. Obviously, Georgia really wanted Jeremiah McLeod. Bit more day one ready. So it could be a guy we see there. But I think when you look at the fact that you have Caleb Banks and some decent talent and some rumors, some other guys maybe stepping up, it's a room. I'm going to give it A minus.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think Banks, Banks is as good a returning defensive player as there is in the SEC. Was as key as to that success down the stretch last year as any player on the team.
Yep.
Getting him back was probably Florida's biggest win of the offseason. Maybe like outside of keeping Austin Barber, but like other than that, like I don't know what else you would even argue was as important. So I mean, I think you feel good about that. Yeah, depth, I mean, is not great. I mean, I'm not sure there's really any position. Yeah. like, yeah, that's a better way to say it. I'm not sure there's any position group on this team outside of maybe running back where you feel like great about the depth.
There's one
About the
position.
depth. About the depth.
There's like two other positions we'll get
Okay.
to that. Yeah.
Okay, that's fair. But yeah, I mean, like I'd say I'm at a B+ here.
B+. Okay.
B+, just only because like I'm really high on Banks, and if there was even like one more semi-proven guy, I'd be probably with you at like AA-. I just like I do worry a little bit about like what this room looks like if God forbid something like were to happen to Banks.
That's fair. I will say Caleb Banks, he did play like a good amount of snaps, so he's not like a low usage player. So worrying about depth could be more about injuries. I mean, yeah, like 58 snaps of 93 total for a defensive tackle. That's a pretty high rate there. And maybe a guy who can play more now. Did he get hurt in that LSU game too? Or was that the Ole Miss game?
I think that was Ole Miss, but I'm not 100%. I'm not. I could be wrong about that. It definitely was one of those two games, but I can't remember off the top of my head which one it was.
Okay, that makes I lost my notes. Whoops. Okay, so you go B+. Okay.
Yeah, I think I'm sitting at B. I'd say I'm sitting at B+. Although, like, yeah, B+, A-. Like, I'm right around there. Like, I'm not too like if I'm a B+, it's like right on the borderline, but I think that's where I'm going to say, just because there's not like really much proven at all beyond Caleb Banks.
Going back onto what we discussed, no tackle and D tackle, I think on the D line, we're talking about Jeremiah McLeod being the guy that can come in and contribute. I mean, Bachu could obviously, he's higher rated, could develop, but bit more project. Project. I'd be kind of surprised. Maybe we also forgot to mention nose tackle, Stephon Shivers. Again, I mean, nose tackle is pretty difficult to play. They won the SEC. So,
yeah. Like interior defensive line in general, like these guys are just not typically going to be massive contributors early on in their career, though obviously they can be.
Few exceptions.
Yeah.
All right. So we've just talking about it, not sure about the depth. This is where this is one of the two positions that I'm outside of running back. I'm really high in the depth. You've got the F, which is what's listed on the depth chart, also defensive end. I mean, Tyreek Sapp, I think you talked about maybe the biggest retaining of Caleb Banks, maybe no one bigger. I think Tyreek Sapp is just there with Caleb Banks. I mean, I'm seeing Tyreek Sapp also get some first round projections in this coming year's 2026 NFL draft. I mean, I'm as high in Sapp as you can be. I think he's had 7 or 8 sacks this year. Saw a lot of it ramp up at the end of the year, kind of like we did with Banks. Someone I could see having 10 sacks, which from the defensive end position is a bit less common, not uncommon, obviously. But you look at a lot of our guys at UF who had those sacks, it's usually edge. So defensive end, I mean, Sapp getting there would be monumental for this team and for himself. But then you go down the depth chart, Cam James. We saw a lot of Cam James this year, good run stuffer, good pass rusher, hoping he can develop also more going into the year. If Cam James was a starter, I'd be okay with it. But he's a backup here, which is like why I'm really ecstatic about this position. And then you also have LJ McCray, 5-star freshman, who 2 sites had as a top 4 player in the country. So it's like you're hoping he develops more, which like with those 5 stars, you kind of have to bank on a bit when we're making these early predictions. And then I also put Jalen Wiggins in this group. I think he's a little bit bigger than edge rusher would be. I mean, yeah, he's a little bit heavier than what you would normally see from an edge rusher. So I kind of think he goes to defensive end, although 247 has him listed as an edge. I mean, this room I think is just really good all around.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, when you say it all out loud like that, all at once, like, yeah, it's a pretty impressive position group. I mean, Sapp, really good, reliable starter. Cameron James, like, played a ton and was impactful when he did. And then LJ, we didn't get to see a lot of. I mean, I would say promising moments, though, like not a lot that I'm not sure there's a lot of like LJ McCray plays I like think back on and remember from last year, but also nothing glaring either. So it's like
high 5-star status.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a mix of, so this position's a mix of like proven starting experience, very solid and experience depth and like high level elite talent too in the depth. So like, yeah, this is exactly what you want. This is a good position. Getting Sap back. I mean, if you don't have, if Sap had left, for one reason or another, this I think is a little bit more precarious. Just if you're looking at Cam James and LJ McCray, but yeah, I mean, I'm like at an A here.
I'm gonna go A plus.
Okay.
Because I really like Cam James, and I mean I talk about Sap being a potential first round pick and McCray's high school ratings and everything. Like this is kind of like how you see Georgia, like how they were getting their talent. Like they'd have that one projected first round pick, another guy who took a year or two. They've developed. You saw a little bit from him that looked good, and he's another top 150 for us. 150 for Georgia. It may have been 5-star top 50, but still. And then you have another freshman or now going into a second season who was that elite 5-star prospect. And then you still are bringing in kids like Jalen Wiggins, who was 150 area, now highly rated, talented prospect. So I think that's like as good as it gets for you here. So I'm really high on this room. Yeah. I'm gonna go. I said A plus.
Yeah.
Like, next position we'll get to the jack/edge rusher position. It's a position we talked a lot about in the transfer portal. We went and got Kofi Asare from UMass. Not crazy stats, but has some good film on him. Not sure he's going to be the starter here. I think it's George Gums who ends up being the start here.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we see Gums more edge rushing than we saw him last year. Took more pass rushing snaps. You obviously did have Jack Pyburn and pass defending snaps. But like last year, you had Jack Pyburn and Searcy who were good run stuffers. Not really great pass rushers though, so you didn't really need to play Gums there. Although when you did, I feel like you saw him excel there a bit more. So I'm going to say Gums gets a bit more time there this year. And then you bring in Jaden Woods, who, I mean, I don't know if you see it on Twitter. I've seen a lot of this guy practicing and just continuing to improve. Someone that when we got him, I was high on him. Like, I think this is the highest potential guy we got in that class. And someone who could make an immediate impact if you don't see like a Kofi Asare get that development. You could also see LJ McCray here. As well as like Aaron Childs on a couple plays. Like I think you look back at the snap counts, you've seen Childs take like 2 snaps at this position while having like 13 or something at linebacker, true linebacker positions. So I think this is a good room. Obviously not the level as defensive tackle or defensive end.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I would say it's probably the weakest position on the defensive line outside of nose tackle, but I do like this group. I mean, I think Gums playing this kind of more on a full-time basis is probably for the best for like him and the defense, honestly. Like I think Gums, I mean, because like now you just have so much linebacker talent, which we'll get to in a little bit, that you have just enough guys that can play off the ball. You don't really need to have Gums be doing that. And he was very impactful. I can't remember how many. Did he have like 5 sacks last year? How many sacks did he have?
Yeah, 5 sounds right.
Okay.
I'll double check, but I think it's 5.
Okay. But yeah, so I mean, solid pass rushing production, especially for a guy who wasn't doing it full time. I mean, I think he's good there. I mean, Asare, like, we'll see. Like, I'll be honest, like a guy who had like 3 sacks at UMass doesn't exactly get me super fired up, but they seem to really like this guy. They seem to be really high on him.
5 sacks last season.
5 sacks for Gums. Okay. So yeah, I mean, we'll see with Asare, like how big of a role he plays in the rotation. Wouldn't exactly surprise me if sort of like Slackman did this year, he just kind of finds himself sort of supplanted by other younger guys in the
like Jaden Woods or LJ McCray.
Exactly. And I think, we talked about, when I was saying interior guys on the defensive line, kind of harder for them to see the field early on, less so for edge rushers. Like as we saw Harold Perkins made his money literally and figuratively as a package pass rusher his freshman year.
Rob's not high on Gums like everyone else is. I don't know how like high we are on Gums. I mean, I also don't know how low you are. Like if you're thinking we're calling Gums an A+, we're not doing that. But if you're calling him like a C, we're also not doing that. Like I'm gonna give the position overall a B-.
Okay.
because it can be better. Like I could see, I mean, I'm really high in Woods. Like I've already said that many times today in other videos. Gums, I think, is good. So it's like it could be as high as probably like an A minus,
Mhm.
but I don't know if it has like that A plus potential. So I'm gonna go B minus.
Yeah, my kind of initial thought was B. And not to copy you, but I actually kind of I like B minus. I'm gonna
Yeah.
go with B minus as well. That feels more right to me because I like Gums. I think Asare is a question mark with potential.
Mm-hmm.
I think I like I'm with you. I'm high on Woods. And what I was kind of about to say before we started talking about Gums was like I think he is like edge is a position where you can see freshmen make an impact. I think I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't be surprised if we see him be one of those guys that does make an impact early on. But that's a lot of projection, and like it would be kind of
Exactly.
dishonest with how I've talked about other positions to be too high on it because I like a true freshman to be a contributor. So I think B minus is fair. Not really anyone elite there, but a lot of guys who have a lot of decent to good experience.
Yep. So now this next position is kind of it's interesting here. It's a position that usually we see on like passing downs. When we talk about Gums when he was playing in coverage or rushing the passer, usually when we saw him in coverage, it was at the Sam position. It's kind of a spot you can put on the other edge, next to that defensive end. That like I mean, we saw Gums get 5 sacks playing mostly at this position last year.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if we're really trying to rush the passer, I would suspect you put Gums at Sam, and then either Asare or one of those freshmen or McCray at the Jack position. We also saw Aaron Childs get a lot of snaps at this position compared to like the amount of snaps that this position gets. So it's really just Gums and Childs.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for a position that you don't see that often, you have a guy that again we saw play pretty good at this position, plus a guy we saw. I mean, Childs made some plays at the end of the year, and is another top 100 recruit. I'll say I'm higher on Sam than Jack because of. I mean, again, it's a usage thing. Like I'll go B.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
mean, can't really go lower or higher, so I'll say a B.
This is a really hard position to like give a grade on because it's so contextual. Like
It
it
is,
really
yeah.
just depends on what they try to do,
Mhm.
defensively this year. I mean, I think, yeah, I mean, like, I don't know how you could say anything other than B. Like if we're
Right?
I mean, at least you'd have to go B minus at worst because we just gave the position that it like is half of this position a B minus. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like if we're high on Gums, we can't be that much lower on Sam. So yeah, I mean, like I would think that maybe what like the best thing to do in terms of getting your best 11 guys on the field would be have Childs play Sam and Gums at edge so you can have Childs on the field
Mm-hmm.
too, because I don't know, and we'll get into this too with the linebacker group. Good talented position there too. So going to be a
Mm-hmm.
lot very competitive for snaps. Wouldn't surprise me if that's kind of the happy medium they settle on, unless a guy like Kofi Asare or one of the freshman edge rushers are just that good that you can't keep them off the field.
Okay, so you also went B.
Yeah, I think B is fair there. Yeah.
All right, I'll let you make the grid for the linebacker position. The players looking at here: Grayson
Yeah.
Pup Howard, Miles Graham, Aaron Childs, Jaden Robinson, Ty Jackson, Miles Johnson. I mean, we went last year, Shamar James and Pup Howard starting. We talked about Shamar being a good, not great starter. And then you had a bunch of young talent that we were super high on. Pup Howard started at or got good playing time at South Carolina as a freshman, was somebody that the staff was really high on coming out of high school, and a lot of other people were really high on. When Pup played, he was probably our most consistent linebacker and like
Mm-hmm.
consistently like a B plus level good. And now you go to like Miles Graham, who top 50 recruit, Aaron Childs, top 100 recruit. And we're bringing in Ty Jackson, who Billy Napier says his 2024 season or 2023 season of tape was the best high school tape he's ever seen. So
Yeah.
he's as high as can be on Ty Jackson. I mean, I'm going to let you give the grade here. I'm going to let you break it down a bit more as well.
Yeah. Looking at these guys, like, I mean, I'll just be honest. I love this room. I think this is a really good room. I mean, like you said, Pup was at like, especially, kind of battled injuries at points, but like was when healthy was as good as anyone on that defense.
Mm-hmm.
I think losing Shamar is tough in the sense that I think Shamar was a good player, but I mean, I think Miles Graham was really coming on at the end of the season. Like, it's hard to even feel like this is a major drop off. If it's a drop off at all, it might not be. It might even be. I don't know. Is it hasty to say it could be an upgrade?
It's not. I don't.
Okay.
I hate to say it because I really like Shamar, but it's not.
Yeah. Okay. Good. That
And
makes me feel a little bit
we're
more
talking
validated.
about this. I mean, I assume you're going to mention Childs next.
Yeah.
Or I'll let you continue. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, actually, who I was going to mention next was Jaden Robinson.
That's what I was thinking.
I believe when we did our superlatives, I think I had him for something like surprise player of the year or something.
He was fifth in tackles,
or underrated player.
Underrated is probably what he did.
Yeah.
He was fifth in tackles on the team. Like,
yeah, he was.
I wouldn't
really
be
good.
surprised if he was starting. I think Miles Graham is too good to not start, and Pup Howard I think is also more proven.
Yeah.
But you're talking about Jada Robinson and Aaron Childs, and then, well, I guess supposedly Ty Jackson being those second, third, and fourth guys. I mean, third, fourth, and fifth guys off the bench. I mean, this room is as good as we've seen since when? What? I mean, like, when did we have a linebacker room this good? Like,
I'd say the Muschamp, the Anzalone, Alex Anzalone, Jared Davis years. Yeah.
So what will you give this grade?
I just real quick before I grade it, I just want to add like on top of all the guys we've talked about, there's also Aaron Childs. I mean, who we'll kind of see where exactly they use him, but is a guy that also was promising last year. And I'm glad you brought up the Ty Jackson, the thing Billy said about Ty Jackson's film, because I was going to say that if you didn't. Like, of all the true freshmen on this team, I would say maybe limited by just the talent above him, but I would say, like, in terms of being ready to contribute, I'd say he's probably one of the freshmen I'd expect to potentially see the field this year. I mean, I think this is another A.
Yeah. I'll also go A. I mean, this room is just so talented, proven.
Yeah.
It's not proven enough to be an A plus. But it's proven enough to probably be like an A minus. But then you add the talent, and we've seen every year them develop linebackers pretty well since Billy's first year here with Jay Bateman. So yeah, I'm also going to go A, and I wouldn't be surprised if we're coming back here in a year, or I guess less than a year, saying that this room was the reason that we were a playoff team.
I mean, I'd say I'd be a little bit surprised if we're a playoff team, but if we are a playoff team, I think you're right that the linebackers would be a major reason for it.
I mean, hey, you had us as a 9-3, which it's very likely could be a playoff team.
I mean, there will be 9-3 teams that make the playoffs, if not this year. Like, it's going to happen fairly regularly. So.